Hi everyone, I'm Emily Jackson. Growing up, I always knew I was playing second fiddle to my sister, Emma. Even now, at 28, with my software engineering career thriving, nothing I do seems to matter to my parents. Let me give you a glimpse of what I'm dealing with. Emily, why can't you dress more like your sister? She always looks so put together, my mom said during our weekly family dinner, completely ignoring the promotion I just announced. Mom, I'm leading a major project at Silicon Tech now, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. That's nice, dear, she replied dismissively. But did you hear? Emma's boyfriend, James, is taking her to Paris next month. Isn't that wonderful? I caught my best friend Ava's eye across the table. I brought her along for moral support, and she gave me the look she always does when my family pulls this nonsense. Actually, Mrs. Jackson, Ava jumped in, her voice steady and polite. Emily's project could revolutionize her company's entire security system. Speaking of security, my dad interrupted. Emma and James are looking at houses in the Heritage District. Now that's a secure investment. I stared at my plate, pushing my food around, trying to hold my tongue. Memories of being sidelined flashed through my mind. The student loans I'd worked 3 jobs to pay off while Emma got a free ride. The family vacations I wasn't invited to because Emma needed quality time with mom and dad. Have you seen Emma's engagement ring? My mom gushed, shoving her phone toward Ava. James proposed last weekend, $20,000. Can you believe it? How nice, Ava said flatly, squeezing my hand under the table. Later that night, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Emma. Mom says you seem jealous at dinner. Don't worry, you can be a bridesmaid if you stick to the diet plan I make for you. You don't have to respond to that, Ava said firmly as we sat in my apartment. Your sister's a piece of work. Did I tell you what happened at work today? My mentor, Diana, said I'm being considered for the executive track. That's amazing, I said, smiling despite myself. See, you're crushing it on your own terms. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Emma. James's family is coming to dinner tomorrow. Try not to embarrass me by talking about your computer stuff. You know what the worst part is? I said, turning to Ava. I keep trying. I keep thinking that if I just achieve enough, they'll finally see me. Well, I see you, Ava said, her voice gentle but firm. And trust me, your sister's perfect life isn't as perfect as she pretends. I had no idea then how right Ava was, or how much everything was about to implode. The wedding preparations were just beginning, setting off a chain of events that would expose every lie my family had built Emma's golden pedestal on. A few weeks later, the big day arrived, and I found myself sitting in the back row of Emma's wedding reception. Yes, you heard that right. The back row. Not the bridal party, not even a family section. Just shoved into a corner like some distant acquaintance. Can you believe she set you back here? Ava whispered, adjusting her dress. Her own sister. Honestly, I can. I watched Emma twirl in her designer gown, our parents beaming beside her. Everything was going exactly as expected until a server placed a fancy envelope next to my plate. Thinking it was part of the wedding favors, I opened it and froze. Is this some kind of joke? I asked, staring at the bill inside. $200 for my plate, along with a handwritten note. We expect payment before you leave. Let me see that, Ava said, snatching the paper. Her face turned crimson as she read it. Oh hell no, she pulled out her phone and began recording discreetly. Emily dear, my mother's syrupy voice interrupted as she approached our table. Did you get the envelope? Mom, I said, my voice shaking, are you seriously charging me for attending my own sister's wedding? Well, sweetie, Emma thought it was only fair since you didn't contribute to the wedding expenses, she said smoothly, unlike James's family who've been so generous. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw James, my new brother-in-law, watching from a distance looking uncomfortable. James hesitated, but I couldn't hold back anymore. I offered to help with the planning, the decorations, everything. Emma told me she didn't want my help because I'd embarrass her with my simple tastes. My mother sniffed dismissively. Well, you would have, dear. Now will that be cash or check? Ava's phone was still recording when Emma sauntered over, her gown trailing behind her like a trophy. Oh good, you got the bill. Just trying to teach my little sister about financial responsibility. Not all of us can waste our lives playing with computers. Playing with computers? I'm a senior software engineer. I snapped. I make six figures. Then paying shouldn't be a problem, Emma smirked. Consider it your wedding gift since you clearly couldn't afford anything from my registry. That's when James stepped in, his voice low but firm. Emma, we talked about this. This isn't right. Stay out of it, James, she hissed. This is family business. My hands trembled as I reached for my purse and pulled out my checkbook. You want your money? Fine. My voice was tight as I scribbled on the check. Here's your $200. Consider it the last thing you'll ever get from me. Don't be dramatic, Emily, my dad said, appearing suddenly. Your sister just got married. Can't you think about someone besides yourself for once? I handed the check over, stood up, and walked out. Behind me, Emma's shrill voice pierced the air. See, she always has to make everything about herself. What none of them knew was that this bill wasn't just a bill, it was the final straw, and thanks to Ava's quick thinking, we had proof of everything. 2 months after the wedding disaster, I sat in Diana's office at Silicon Tech, staring at an opportunity that could change everything. Seattle needs a strong leader, Emily, Diana said. The position comes with double your current salary and full team control. Just as my excitement began to bubble, my phone buzzed. Another text from Emma. Need to talk ASAP. Financial emergency. I ignored it, focusing on Diana. When would I need to decide? By Friday, she said. Then she hesitated. But Emily, there's something else. A client flagged irregular transactions from Jackson Family Enterprises, your parents' business. I froze. Irregular transactions. Later that day, Ava burst into my office, her face flushed with urgency. Emily, you're not going to believe this. Your parents' company. They've been running 2 sets of books. Emma's been using the business accounts like her personal piggy bank. My stomach dropped. How do you know this? James called me. He found gambling receipts, hundreds of thousands. Emily, she's been forging your dad's signature. My phone rang. Emma again. This time I answered, putting her on speaker. Emily, I need $50,000, she said, her voice shaky. I know you have savings. It's just a loan. Things with James are tight right now. Excuse me? I said, my voice cold. You mean because you're gambling away his money too? Dead silence. Then a panicked whisper. How did you? Who told you? Does it matter? I replied. The answer is no. I'm your sister, she cried. After everything Mom and Dad did for you. Did for me, I snapped. You mean charging me for your wedding? Making me pay back every penny of college while they funded your shopping sprees. Because you're the strong one. Emma's voice cracked. You can handle it. I'm not built for struggling. Ava's still recording, finally spoke up. You built your entire life on making Emily struggle instead. Is that Ava? Are you recording this? Emily, tell your little spy toe. I hung up. Minutes later, my mother called. Your sister is crying, she said, her tone scolding. How dare you refuse to help family? Like you helped me, Mom. I said, my voice icy. Should I send you a bill for this phone call? Don't be bitter, Emily. We heard about your promotion. Seattle branch, right? You can't abandon your family now. Emma needs you. Emma needs consequences, I said firmly. In the background, I heard my father's panicked voice. They're auditing the business. James's father must have reported us to the IRS. Emma's wailing grew louder. My mother's voice turned sugary sweet. Emily, you're so good with numbers. Maybe you could help us sort this out? No, I said simply. We're not family anymore. I hung up and turned to Ava. Send me copies of everything you recorded. Already did, Ava said, smirking. James, too. He's filing for divorce, by the way. Turns out Emma's been lying to him about, well, everything. Just then, Diana poked her head into the office. Emily, Seattle needs an answer. I stood up, feeling lighter than I had in years. Tell them I accept. 1 year later, I stood on stage at the Women in Tech Awards, accepting the Innovation Lead of the Year award. The Seattle skyline sparkled through the convention center windows, shimmered in the golden glow of twilight, matching the glint of my trophy. My phone buzzed, a text from Ava. Emma's gambling debts finally caught up. Your parents had to sell the house to cover what she stole. They're moving into a tiny apartment next week. I slipped the phone back into my pocket, focusing on the networking reception. Just as I raised my champagne glass, my new assistant approached with a message. Call from James Harrison, she said. Finding a quiet corner, I dialed. Emily, James began, his voice steady but somber. The divorce is final. But there's something you should know. The IRS investigation. They found everything. Define everything, I said, bracing myself. 20 years of tax fraud. Emma's embezzlement was just the tip of the iceberg. Your parents, they've lost everything. The business, their retirement, all of it. I sipped my champagne, letting the news sink in. And Emma, she's living in their apartment's spare room. Nobody will hire her with the fraud charges pending. Oh, and she tried opening credit cards in your name last month. She what? Don't worry, I caught it in time. Being a financial advisor has its perks. She can't touch you. Later that night, my hotel room phone rang, displaying an unfamiliar number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Baby girl, please. My mother's voice was thick with tears. We made mistakes. Mistakes. My voice was icy. You systematically destroyed my self-worth, enabled Emma's abuse, and tried to drag me down with you. Emma wants to apologize, she said weakly. She's changed. We've all changed. In the background, I heard Emma's muffled plea. Tell her I'll go to therapy. I'll do anything. You had decades to change, I said sharply. Funny how it only matters now that you've lost everything. We're living off Social Security, my mother whispered. The IRS took everything. Consequences, Mom. Remember when you taught Emma she'd never have to face any? Well, this is what they look like. I hung up and stepped onto my hotel balcony, watching the sunset paint Seattle's sky in shades of purple and gold. My phone chimed again. A message from Diana Bard. Loved your presentation. GP position is yours if you want it. Another text popped up, this time from Ava. Your old house just sold. Guess who bought it? James's private investment firm. They're turning it into a women's shelter. I smiled, remembering Emma's sneers about my little computer job. Now I was making 7 figures, driving a Tesla to my corner office, while she filled out job applications at fast food joints. My phone buzzed one last time. Emma, using Dad's phone. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm your sister. I blocked that number too and ordered room service. Tomorrow I'd wake up in my luxury condo, ready to lead my team in revolutionizing tech security. Meanwhile, Emma would wake up on a pull-out couch. Mom would clip coupons, and Dad would struggle to pay the electric bill. They say success is the best revenge, but sometimes success isn't about revenge. It's about walking away from people who never deserved you in the first place. What would you have done if you were in my shoes when Emma called crying and begging for forgiveness? Would you have given your toxic family another chance, or would you have kept your distance like I did? Sometimes the hardest part isn't building yourself up. It's staying strong when your abusers suddenly want back into your life after karma hits them. Drop your thoughts in the comments below.